cactus and succulent growers, it's Lynn. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing my top 5 tips for growing cactus. But before I start, I just want to show you this beautiful Crassula falcata, commonly known as the propeller plant, in beautiful bloom in the polytunnel today. Now, my first tip will be get to know your cactus. And when you first get a cactus, it can be difficult to know what type you have, but this is really important because it makes a big difference to the care. For example, not all cacti are desert. This is an epiphytic cactus, Ripsalis, and this mammillaria is a desert cactus, and their care is very, very different. And you may not be able to ID the exact type of cactus you have, but if you can ID the genus, that is really important. For example, this is a Gymnoclisium cactus, and if you can't ID the exact type of Gymnoclisium, at least you can find out the genus. You'll know how to care for your cactus. Now, I have made a video on how to ID your cactus, and I'll link that video up above and also down below in the video description. And I've also made a video on how to tell the difference between an epiphytic cactus and a desert cactus as well. That will help you if you're new to growing cacti, and I'll also link that video up above and down below in the video description because their care are very different. So do check as much as you can to know what type of cactus you are growing, because this really does make a difference. For example, here I'm going to show you these epiphytic cacti. This is my Schlumbergera, common known as Thanksgiving and Christmas cacti. Very different to traditional looking cacti, but they're all cacti, all the same. Now, the second tip will be watering. And this is important because the correct watering can be life or death for your cactus. People either seem to think that cacti hardly ever need watering at all because they grow in the desert, and other people will overwater them. And again, it does depend on the type of cactus you have. But with the majority of all the desert cacti, they do like plenty of water during the growing season, such as spring and summer. And I would water my desert cacti during the spring and summer every time the soil is completely dried out in their pots, depending again on the weather. But it does depend on many different things, such as where you're growing and where you live in the world, your climate, whether it's a sunny, dry environment or damp and wet. And also in the winter time, I will keep the majority of my cacti dry over the winter. But again, it does depend on whether you're growing them indoors in a heated house or outdoors in a cold, unheated polytunnel or greenhouse. But I have made a complete video on how to water cacti and succulents, so do check that video out for a lot more information on there. The watering is very important, and I'll link that video up above and down below in the video description. As it's still late summer here, I'm going to give these little ones a little bit of watering to top them up. As I say, I water every time the soil is dried out in summer. Now, number 3 will be the correct soil. And this is very important for cacti because you see so many cacti, store-bought cacti, that are just potted up in terrible soil, usually pure peat, which is not good for cacti. I like to make a very well-draining cactus soil up of 3 equal parts of a loam-based soil mixed with pumice and grit. If I don't have pumice, then I'll use perlite. But this is really important that you use a well-draining cactus soil. And you can buy very good quality commercial cactus soils as well. The most important thing is the soil dries out quickly in between waterings. And this, again, it depends on the type of cactus, which is where you need to know your type of cactus. Because epiphytic cacti definitely need a totally different soil. I would use a lot more of a houseplant soil with the epiphytes. But with the desert cacti, such as these, a very well draining cactus soil. And if you want to know how to make cactus and succulent soil, then do check out a video I've made on how to make cactus soil in 3 easy steps. Links up above and down below in the video description. But the most important thing is to use a well-draining soil that dries out very quickly in between waterings. Because if cacti are in the wrong soil and they're kept too damp too long, their roots can rot back, and cacti can be very prone to rotting. So the soil is incredibly important. And I've made many videos on my channel on how to repot cacti, so do check out the playlist on all my repotting videos. Now, number 4 will be the correct lighting, and the majority of cacti and succulents love a very sunny position. A south-facing position is ideal for these, but it does depend on where you live in the world. For example, I'm here in Ireland, in the north of Ireland, and our summers are pretty grey, especially this summer. And I have to find the most sunniest position I can find for them. A south-facing position is ideal because they get as much sun as they can. For example, this is the weather today, and this is sort of late August, very, very cloudy, and it's just not good. So I have to find the sunniest position. I have a south-facing garden, and both my polytunnels get plenty of sun when we get sun. But if you're living in a very sunny climate, such as California, then you might find it's better to grow them in a southeast or a southwest position where they're not going to get too much intense sun. South-facing window, I've got some of my succulents here as well, as you can see, to get as much of the sun as they can. Now, with the epiphytic cacti, such as my here, this is a Schlumbergia bucklei Christmas cactus, they do need more shade. And I have these outdoors, but they're protected a little bit by a bit of overhanging vegetation there, so they get plenty of shade but bright light. So obviously epiphytic cacti need very different lighting conditions to the desert cacti, so that is where it's important that you give them the correct lighting for what they need, depending on the type of cactus you're growing. Now, number 5, my last tip would be pests. And this is really important, that when you're growing cactus, you keep a very eagle eye out for any beasties that appear. I like to use one of these little loops, magnifying loops. They're absolutely brilliant to get close in on your cactus, and it will show up any signs of pests on there. Because a lot of insect pests like to hide in between the spines, and this is past spider mite damage, for example, on this young saguaro cactus, and you see all the new growth at the top that's grown out. And I like to use rubbing alcohol here. I put it into a little spray bottle, give them a spray, and it helps kill off any sort of signs of spider mites and mealybugs. Bit of a spray like that, and I do this sort of regularly in here. Don't do it when it's a sunny day. You need to either do it of an evening when the sun has gone down, or during an overcast day, because otherwise it can burn in sunshine. And as you can see there, mealybug nests. So what I like to do then with the rubbing alcohol is I put a little bit spray a little bit into a bowl, have one of these little brushes here, load it up with the isopropyl rubbing alcohol, and then I dab the nests. And I do this pretty regularly, at least every 2 to 3 days. I come into the polytunnels, go over all the plants, and any signs of pests I will remove with the rubbing alcohol. You can also use methylated spirits or surgical spirit, whichever is easier. You can also use pure vodka as well, anything to kill beasts. And that's past spider mite damage there on my cobra opuntia. And I like to use neem oil as well regularly to prevent any beasts. So I hope you enjoyed the top 5 tips for growing cactus. And if you want to have lots more tips on growing cactus, I've got many videos on my channel on sharing many of my tips on growing cacti and succulents. So don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done already, and watch my other videos. And before you go, if you could leave a comment in the video, comments down below, even a heart or smiley face, because every comment really helps the algorithm. And if you want to as well check out more lovely flower photographs, then don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook at Desert Plants of Avalon. And do check my website out for more growing tips on there, desertplantsofavalon.com. I want to wish you all a fantastic cactus-powered day.